Stop watching self-development videos. Most of us spend hours a day watching videos to help us become a high-value man. But I want to put an end to that once and for all, so that you can have your time back and actually spend it being one. I'm going to accomplish this by giving you one framework that you can use and keep for the rest of your life to hold you accountable to your personal growth. This is me as a little kid. We'll call him young Peter. When I was a little kid, I was really happy. Like, my parents would send me to my room for being naughty.
No poking your daddy in the bottom.
But then they would just find me back to my stuffed animal cinematic universe and continuing the storyline where I left off. So my parents would take away my stuffed animals. And then I would just sit on my bed and imagine. And I was always smiling. I was always happy. And they couldn't punish me. I was unpunishable. I was just a really happy kid.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I tell you this so you can know who young Peter was. Who I was at my core. As I got older, this became a problem for me. I started to grow distant from my family. And I felt like no matter what I did, there was nothing that I could do to stop me from interacting with a brick wall. This emotional cold shoulder that I felt from my family eventually started to get to me. And as a result, I grew more immature as I got older, not less. I just wanted people to like me, and so I suppressed my emotions to the best of my ability. But by my junior and senior year of high school, something started to change. I began trying to repair the broken relationships with my family. And what I realized is the more I healed from these wounds, the more I resembled that young version of Peter, where he was just joyful all the time. I tell you this to show you that my life only started to improve when I started cutting off the parts of myself that weren't authentic to me, becoming more of who I was when I was young. As we age, we get scars. Skin grows back thicker than it was before. We put up walls and we suppress who we really were, because that version of ourselves that is most authentic to who we really are is the most vulnerable version. Putting up these walls is like hiding from a monster under your bedsheets. You're not actually safe. You must learn to be strong. Strong enough to fight your dragons, not hiding behind a wall from them. They'll be there for as long as you let them live, and it's about time that you put them to death. Follow this framework to become a dragon slayer, to become the man that lives his life with purpose. The framework in question is this. Imagine this. When you were born, you are a little circle. And as you get older, and as you get hurt, you accumulate these scars and you put up these walls. And now in your 20s, you resemble more of a square, of kind of like this plaque that's been built on to this interior circle of who you really are. And in order to grow, you must first learn to differentiate the circle from the square plaque that's been built onto this, the walls that have been built up. Because the longer that you live with these things, the more difficult it will be to differentiate them from who you really are. The idea is you need to cut off these corners, cut off as much as it takes in order for you to get to the circle that you once were, in order for you to grow. If you have financial insecurity or a lot of debt, that corner that you carry with you isn't really you. So you aren't yet well-rounded. And that's what being the circle is being well-rounded. You have to work on each of these 4 aspects of your life in order to have a full life. Financial, spiritual, physical, and emotional. Skipping one of them is the equivalent of skipping leg day in the gym. You are a man. Grow up. Work on your emotions. If you have angry outbursts, know that they are only tendencies, not your identity. And so it must be cut off from you. But you can outgrow these things. As you become more well-rounded, these 4 aspects of your life will influence each other more than they did before. They will be much more connected. So step 1 is cut off the parts of you that aren't really who you are. Then, step 2, when you are well-rounded, you can work on growing and maturing. If you try to do step 2 before step 1, you'll end up growing your corners with you, like financial insecurity, and it will be a much bigger problem for you than it is today. And so your 20s are the best time in your life to work on removing these parts of yourself. Put these things to death. Do not carry them with you. Do not make them a bigger problem than they are today. And no matter when you do this, it will always be a painful task. And that's why most of the world will never even attempt to be well-rounded. But if you esteem to be a man with purpose, then this is what must be done. But now let's get down to the tactics, the practical. How do you actually accomplish this? I'm going to break it down to you by corner in the order that I learned in my life. Keep in mind that I was working on a couple of these corners at the same time, and that there is no particular order that is better than the other. Just start. So we'll begin with the emotional aspects of your life. What are the relationships that you have been hurt in? Even tougher question, what are the relationships where you've hurt the other person in? Can you bring yourself to have the difficult conversation with this person and either let them know that they've hurt you and that you forgive them, or apologize for what you've done to them and beg for their forgiveness. This is the surest path to finding healing. Forgiveness. Forgiveness from them or forgiveness from you. This is what you must do. And I know, Peter, this is a difficult thing. You're asking me to open my heart to the people who have hurt me the most. This level of vulnerability is what it takes. When you're cutting off these aspects of your life, when you're cutting off these corners, you will be very vulnerable. But it is worth it in order for you to become strong. And not everyone will be understanding. Not everybody will forgive you. It is worth the conversation in order for you to be who you need to be. It is foolishness to carry around these things with you. Trying to move on with your life without addressing these wounds is like drinking poison and hoping that the other person will die. If they won't hear what you have to say, then forgive them anyway. Apologize anyway, and then move on. The next corner that I found healing in was the spiritual aspects of my life. You can only do this by being made right with God. We cannot do this on our own. Because when we sin, when we betray an infinitely good God, we deserve to die. Just like how you wouldn't kill a person if he was annoying you. That would be dumb. But you would kill a fly if he was annoying you. Because there's this dichotomy of your intrinsic good is much more valuable than that of the fly. That fly merits death even when it does something as minor as annoy you. And so when you take that dichotomy to the furthest extent of an infinitely good God, and then you actively betray him, we deserve to die. And so seek forgiveness from God. Do not carry your sin with you. So if you're Catholic, go to confession. Confess your sins to one another. If you're not, pray for a spirit of repentance, that God may forgive you of the things that you've done. This is completely a necessary step to becoming well-rounded. And if you think that it isn't, you will never be well-rounded. Once I was able to heal from some of my spiritual wounds and cut off some of the habits that I have carried with me, I gave the financial aspect of my life a deeper look. This involved cutting off misinformation I learned about money. This is the time to pay off your credit card debt. And then more importantly, removing the notion that my value or that my identity was in any way linked with my financial status or just my production value to society. Rid yourself of these things. These are not intrinsic to who you are. But what helped me greatly in this aspect of my life was having a proper identity that was given to me from my spiritual life. And so here's an example of how the more you cut down and the more you become who you really are, the more each aspect of your life will complement the other. And then finally, I've been working on the physical aspect of my life. And this is where if you're out of shape, you need to get in shape. I know that this is a lofty goal, but it's less about, hey, if you have this disease, why aren't you cured yet? But more of, if you realize that you have a sensitivity to gluten and it's making you sick, or that you're lactose intolerant, then why are you drinking 4 milkshakes a week? That was me. I knew that I was lactose intolerant, and yet I was willing to put myself in pain just because I wanted a milkshake. Do you see how this is not integrated? That my perception of my own health is not valued enough in order for me to take it seriously for it to affect my diet. The physical aspect of your life is less about becoming a bodybuilder. It's not about becoming strong, because becoming strong is step 2. Step 1 is cutting off the traumas in your life. It's like the equivalent of like if you tore your ACL. This is healing from tearing your ACL rather than hitting leg day. Listen to your body. It's trying to tell you what you need. Drink water every day. Catch up on sleep if you don't sleep enough. Stop bragging about how little you sleep and fix your sleep schedule. Your unhealthy lifestyle is nothing to be proud of. If you have body image problems, this is where your spiritual life comes to help, because then you can know that whether you struggle with pride or insecurity, you can know that your value is not rooted in how you look. If you are baptized, you are a son or daughter of God, and that's where your value lies. That's where your identity lies. This is why becoming well-rounded is such a difficult task, because you have to do the things that you've been putting off for your entire life. Winston Churchill says this legendary quote that I almost repeat to myself on a daily basis because I love it so much. To each comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing, unique to them and fitted to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for that which could have been their finest hour. Stop being who you aren't so you can start being who you were made to be. This isn't a pie-in-the-sky lifestyle for gurus and saints. Every single person on the planet has what it takes to deny themselves these things that they've been holding on to and rounding themselves out. Everywhere that you're rough around the edges needs to be softened, needs to be chiseled, and do all of this before you get married. Find a girl who's applied this to her life, who is well-rounded, and marry that girl, and then grow with her, Do step 2 with your girl. Once you have become well-rounded, you are now capable of knowing who you are. You are the core of who you were made to be. You are living out your identity. If you are able to learn one framework from my channel, it is this one. Becoming well-rounded is the surest path to self-discovery that you will ever find. And now you're in the perfect place to, in an ordered way, grow every aspect of your life all at once to be a dragon slayer. And it's this compounding effect where every single area that you've worked on now works together in a complementary way. Dude, go get big in the gym. Marry a beautiful girl. Build a big business. Be consumed in prayer. And do not be afraid to sell out for your faith. And so now, instead of hiding under the bed sheets, you've killed the dragon. Here's an example of a big circle and a little circle. This is a man in his 60s and a man in his 20s, and they both became well-rounded in their 20s. But now that he's in his 60s, he's been able to grow for the past 40 years, compared to the guy who's the square, who really wasn't able to do that much because he didn't even know who he really was. If you want to live a full life, just follow these 2 steps. If you wait to become well-rounded and just focus on step 2 activities, you'll mess them all up. You'll marry the beautiful girl, but then your marriage will end in divorce because you have financial insecurity, or you have all of these seeping emotional wounds that you've carried with you, and she's not allowed to get close to you even though she's the only person in your life who can, because you won't let her. What if your house burns down, and because you've let yourself go physically, you're not able to carry your unconscious children out of the burning fire? It's not about finding a hack or some secret information. This framework seems obvious because you already know it to be true. You already know that you can't not prioritize your faith and just get big in the gym and think that you're going to be a great guy. You were made to fathom the truth, and this is the surest path to a full life. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you subscribe. Even if you don't, just keep coming back and I'll keep making videos. My channel's purpose is to document my growth, both personally and professionally, by sharing the philosophies and principles that I'm learning as I'm trying to grow my own company and become the man that I was made to be. I'll see you in the next video.